Fresh off their final debate before the primary August 28th, the Democratic gubernatorial candidates are back on the campaign trail.
And the road to Tallahassee for Jeff Greene passed through CBS4 News today. He sat down to talk with Jim DeFede.
You created a school called the Greene School. Why did you create that school?
Well, I have three young boys. They're now 4, 6, and 8. And a couple of years ago, they were all 2 years younger. And we were private schools. The public schools in our area just aren't up to snuff. I mean, I went to public schools all the way through high school. I had a great public school education, but they just were not what we expected.
Don't you live in? But isn't the school that you would have sent your children to? I understand it's an A-rated school.
Well, you know, you may be A-rated, but it's not at the level of the schools that I felt children in Florida deserve and my own children deserve. So we decided, let's go out and start a private school. We didn't take a penny of government money. We don't even take donor money. There were wealthy kids, parents, and we say, you know what, we want the educators only focusing on doing innovative education for these children.
So what would you do for public education if you're governor?
Well, it's easy because, you know, right now, according to U.S. News and World Report, Florida public schools are 40 in the country, and I believe that number. And I think that there are examples. The state of New Jersey was 36 in the country, and now it's 2. And I'll tell you what they did. Just a few things, because I've spent time with the consultant that was front and center in New Jersey. And basically what they did is they have 2 years of pre-K for every 3- and 4-year-old child, because, you know, what happens, almost everyone's talking about it now. It's going to become more of a buzzword about brain development among young kids. But I mean, this is when it all happens, prenatal to 8 years old.
So how do you pay for it, though?
Well, it's not, you know, first of all, that happens to be a 7-to-1 return by almost every study, because, you know, let's face it, if you want to build a university building, like a big chemistry building at a university, it may cost you $100 million. How much better are the kids going to learn chemistry?
So, but how do you pay for this?
So, you know, we think it's about $1 billion, okay? Just if we end the vouchers that are going to charter schools, these schools without rules, that alone is $1 billion. But I'll tell you something else. Rick Scott added to his budget this year, called Executive Office of the Governor. It went from $400 million to $1.4 billion. That was there to give out corporate welfare, to get businesses to come here.
One thing that I just want to point out, because the $1 billion that you're talking about that goes to charter schools, if you end that and close those charter schools essentially, and all those kids go into public schools, you know it costs more to educate them in public schools, because I think the charter schools get around $5,000 or so per student when they go to charter schools, and because it's a big talking point for the Republicans, and when they go to traditional public schools, it's closer to $7,000 or $8,000. So all those kids, 300,000 kids that you want to move in the public school system, are going to cost each of them $2,000, $3,000 more to educate.
Well, look, there's no question in my mind that we have to fix the public schools first. 86% of our kids are in public schools. But
what I'm saying is your plan actually costs more money. It doesn't save.
Well, let me explain. Look, right now, if you listen to statistics on what percentage of our gross state product is spent on public education, we are 38th in the country. That means we have a $1 trillion economy, 15th largest in the world. We're 38th, and what percentage of that we're spending in education. So all we have to do is change the priorities. And we have to.
So what do you cut? So all right, so let's talk about priorities. So you're not saying raising taxes. You don't want to raise taxes.
No.
So what currently does the state do that you don't want it to do?
Well, the corporate welfare. I mean, Rick Scott has spent a lot of money, you know, by trying to bring businesses here. You don't have to do that if you have world-class schools, because, look, the first thing somebody asks when they're thinking of moving a business to Florida is, what are the schools like? So they Google Florida public schools, and they see U.S. News and World Report, 40 in the country.
You're going to pay teachers more money?
Well, we have to figure out a way to pay teachers more money, because the problem is, it's not only more money, though. What they did in New Jersey, in addition to more money, the teachers have more time to collaborate with one another. They get advanced education. We need our teachers to be able to, at our school, every child starting in kindergarten learns coding, computer science, how to use a 3D printer. A teacher's not going to know that who's been teaching 30 years. So we need to have the ability for these teachers to get their skills updated. So, and it's treating teachers like professionals.
So how much? So I'm trying to figure out the math, because the numbers are always hard here. You know, the amount of money that's spent on trying to induce businesses to come into the state, that's not going to be enough to pay for what you're talking about.
Well, I think 2 years of pre-K we can find that for sure. Now, if you're talking about giving all the teachers raises, I mean, it's going to take time. We're not going to give everybody a raise, just like the minimum wage. I'd like to see that at $15, but it's not going to. We're not going to go from $8.25 to $15 the first day we're in office. That'll take some time.
All right, let's talk a little bit about potential conflicts of interest for you and your investments. One thing I want to clear up, I've heard from several people that you talk to folks when you talk about this race and how much you're spending, that you say that every 3 days you make $1 million
I've never said that.
No, that's not true. Is it even close to being true?
I had never even thought of it. Never thought of such.
Never thought of that way. Okay. So in the meantime, you know, I looked at your financial disclosure forms. You're worth about $3.3 billion according to last year. That's what you wrote down. You list assets and income, and you have primary sources and secondary sources. The secondary sources, you are required to list not just the sources, but the amount of income.
Right.
Your disclosure forms have no numbers next to them for the secondary sources of income. I have no idea, the public has no idea how much you own in ExxonMobil, how much you own in Hess, Enterprise Products, all these sorts of things. Will you amend your form and add the numbers to it? Because right now they're not there.
If it's required, we'll amend it. We had our accountant do it. We did it. They filled it out. We signed it. We're not trying to hide anything. Let me tell you something. The day I get into office, if there's any possible conflict of anything I own, we'll sell it. So,
well, because like one of the companies that you claim to have a business interest in is Apache Corporation. They are the fracking giants.
Okay.
You know, so
of course. So I, if I'm not mistaken, I think I probably have one hundredth of 1% of my net worth in that. It's a few thousand shares. I remember because I see it on the statement. We will sell that in any energy stock the day I become governor, because we don't want any possible hint of a conflict.
What's your position on fracking in Florida?
Definitely against fracking.
Offshore oil drilling?
Definitely against offshore drilling.
Okay. If you are the nominee,
vehemently against it.
If you're the nominee. Not asking you to do it now, but if you're the nominee going into November, will you release your tax returns?
Absolutely.
And you can hear much more from Jeff Greene. He is Jim's guest for the full half hour on Facing South Florida this weekend. It airs Sunday at 8:30 a.m.